Hi, and welcome back to Bookkeepers Bootcamp. I'm Zoe Whitman. I'm here with Jo Wood, and we're joined by Emma James from the Number Ninja. Hi, Emma. How are you?
Okay, I'm well. How are you?
Yeah, we're good, aren't we, Jo? Bit hot.
We are very good. Hot, but good.
It's so hot here today. Not that we're complaining, but we love it. But it's unseasonably hot. But yeah, we're really excited. It's the last day of Bookkeepers Bootcamp. We had a really great session this morning talking about what happened, or how do you get your business ready to sell. And in this session, we want to talk to you, Emma, about your business, because one of the sessions we had last night, and I suppose with that session in mind about how you get ready to sell a business, we need to sort of think about removing ourselves and the boundaries we need to set to be able to do that. You told me you've got some very strong views about boundary setting. And when we've spoken to you before on the Bookkeepers podcast, you talked about how you've grown your business using technology. I know you were quite resistant to hiring a team, and I'd love to talk about your sort of growth journey. But would you like to start by telling us a little bit about your practice and what you do?
Yeah, so I run the Number Ninja. We've been going 7 years last week, actually. And there are two of us. So there's me, and I have a part-time member of staff, Suzanne, who does 2 days a week. She's been with me a little over a year now. We work mainly with this is a long niche, service-based businesses who have an online element, female-owned, between 35 to 50, no children, fur babies, community focused.
I'm seeing like where the boundaries are coming in. You're so specific, and you know exactly who it is. So with that niche that you have, how many, like, what percentage of your clients are actually in, like, tick all of those boxes?
About 90.
Wow. That's amazing. That's amazing. So 7 years. Emma, go back to the beginning. Why did you set up this practice 7 years ago?
So I think, and this seems to have been a bit of a theme throughout the week, of I didn't intend on setting up a business. What I intended on doing was being self-employed. And I had burnt out a few years previously, completely changed career, retrained, and then was starting to get the same sort of thing. So I'm very, very good at pretty much every job I've had. I've turned into like 3, and was working like long hours, really long commute. And it just wasn't really where I wanted to be and what I wanted to continue with. And I knew that I could kind of like rinse and repeat. I could go move to a different place. But I knew I was going to continue to be in the same position, because I'd do like 2 or 3 years, and then all of a sudden, I've created multiple jobs for myself, and I'm in exactly the same position. So I decided that I would just try going on my own and see what happened. Basically, see if I could afford rent as it was then, and whether I could just get a half decent income working for myself. And at the time, I was very clear that it was just going to be me. Wasn't going to take on staff. I was going to work when I wanted, on what I wanted, and I didn't. It didn't even cross my mind that I was starting a business. As I was very much like, I am self-employed, and it could basically create a job for myself. But that was very much how it was, like right at the beginning.
What was it that made you notice, Emma, that you had, or I think a lot of the time we don't really, if we haven't really done work and sort of personal development and understood business development, it's really easy to go from employment and then think that self-employment is kind of doing the same kind of thing and not seeing it as a business. And we were talking earlier, when we were talking about sort of exiting a business, we were talking about how often people don't expect that a bookkeeping business is the kind of business you might build to sell. What was the moment for you when you realized, hang on a minute, this actually has potential to be a business? I'm a business owner here, I need to change something.
So I think potential was probably 2018, 2019, but I think realistically it was only when I started working with you guys and joined the 6-month program back at the beginning of the pandemic that I really made that change, like, in my mind. That I think beforehand I'd started to realize this could be something, so like this could be an actual business, but because at that point I was still thinking I didn't want to build a team. It was, well, how can I build a business if I don't want to build a team? And then, when I started working with you both, early 2020, I was like, oh, maybe I'm a business owner now. And I think I think it was Jodie earlier on in the week was talking about like almost wanting to be signed off by someone, and have your like experience and your knowledge signed off. And I think I was waiting for someone to say, you are a business, or you are a business owner, or you could be a business owner, and then like no one does that. So I think it was only when I started doing the program and started talking to other people that I thought, this isn't really self-employment anymore, and it definitely has potential to be a business that could go somewhere. And now I do have an employee, so I think that was the moment where I was thinking, this could be something different.
Cool. Okay. And I remember having conversations with you about tech, not wanting to have a team, which is fine. Like, a lot of people don't want to have people working in the business. And my mind is always blown. You've taught me so much, Emma, about shortcuts and like keyboard shortcuts and things that save me time doing repetitive processes. And you always say, well, if I have to do it more than once, I should find a way to automate it. And I love that. It sticks with me. Talk to me a little bit about how you've used tech to automate things, so that you've been able to use sort of tech and software to scale your business before you've needed to have people in the business.
So when I first started it, I knew that I wanted like a pretty decent income, but I also knew I didn't want to work a lot of hours. So partly because of like burning out before I retrained and then pretty much heading the same way again, I didn't want to work evenings, didn't want to work weekends, wanted to work roughly office hours during the week, but also wanted to be able, I didn't want to be location specific. So I wanted to be able to just pick my laptop up and work wherever, and didn't want to feel like I had to work. Like, I tend to work 8 till 4 most days, but I didn't want to feel like I had to do that. And if you're not going to work loads of hours and you're not going to have a team, if you want to be earning like a decent money with it, you're going to have to use something. And for me, my team was tech. So I took on what was Receipt Bank really, really early on, and was using that to, because I also knew I didn't want to work with like actual paperwork. So used that really early on as like data entry sort of thing, and then used other like bits of programs and other like shortcuts and productivity bits and pieces to almost be, I suppose, to replace a lot of what a VA would do, I guess. But like even just like simple things like rules for emails, because I know like a lot of people, when they take on a VA, that like email management is one of the first things they get them to do, whereas I already had like apps and things to do that for me. So I think I was using them as people almost. And so like Receipt Bank was my first team member, if you like, and they were 8 was taking in all of like the paperwork and processing it and sending it through to Xero. And as I had like different, I'm quite keen on, like, quite interested in productivity and like increased productivity. So I had lots of different things that, I guess, as I say, like having like lots of different team members and then lots of like little mini VAs as well, doing things as well, because I knew that although I was obviously doing a lot of the work, because it was just me, so anything that needed like human intervention was me. I was aware even from the beginning, when I didn't really know where I was going with it, I knew that I couldn't be doing everything.
Yeah.
Because that wasn't going to get me to what my income goal was at the time.
So what I'm hearing is that you were very goal specific. You knew exactly what you wanted. You knew the outcome you wanted. You knew the time, like the money, but you also knew the time you wanted to spend. Something else I wanted to pick up on, something you said earlier about how you managed to make every job 3 jobs, and how that was kind of a trait. And I think it's really important to learn from the clues that we've left for ourselves in previous, like what's not worked, and actually realize that everybody's different. And we all have, like, even though it appears amazing to an employer at the time that you're able to do so much, but you end up burnt out and not able to do it. The fact you recognize that in yourself and then built a business and designed it around the fact that you don't know when to stop was really like insightful. And it's something me and Zoe have been talking about recently, because I've always had next project, next business. And for me, this moment in time, I'm trying to step off of the thing that I always do and trying to learn from, okay, just because you've always done it, maybe it's not what you do next. So it's really interesting that you picked up on that. And something else I want to ask you is, I love hearing how you have brought tech in, and I love how you were saying them, because Rosie, I keep calling Zoe Rosie, not like you're my youngest or anything, but Zoe yesterday was talking to ChatGPT, like, hi, oh, thank you so much, that was great. And I love, like, if you treat them like that, if you treat technology like that, it does create that, you know, it leverages your time just like a real human does. But what I want to know is, what are the benefits? Like, you brought in Suzanne, and I've heard you talk so like you're really happy, and you were adamant there was not going to be a real life human in your business ever. I can't believe Suzanne's been with you for just over a year. What's the difference? What are the benefits compared to the tech to bringing in a human?
She does so much within the business. So she has basically replaced me in a lot of the things that, like, because tech is great and tech can do a lot, but I think a lot of things, like particularly with the kinds of clients that we work with, so we do, like, so I think I said at the beginning, like, part of that niche is that they're community focused, and they want to have those relationships with people, and we want to have relationships with them. So as part of that, there does need to be like that human touch with a lot of things. And there are just some things like within what we do that does need a real life person to be looking at things. And she has replaced, even though she does like 2 days a week, she has replaced a lot of that I was doing. And she has taken on like a lot of like that day-to-day stuff. And I see it as, I'm not quite sure whether like she enhances the tech or the tech enhances like her, but I don't see them as like conflicting in any way. Like, to me, I said before, like, that tech they were effectively my first team members. Obviously I treat Suzanne like better, but that's just growing the team. Then they are all, yeah, that they all help, I think. But yeah, I think that there are a lot of things that, yeah, she's been able to take on the stuff that does really need a human touch. She doesn't manage any clients, but she does deal with clients, if that makes sense. So I'm kind of like still overall in control of all of the clients, but she does do a lot of the day-to-day communication with them. And yeah, particularly on the 2 days where she's in, I pretty much don't do any client work. The only the client work I'm doing on those 2 days are any client calls. I'm starting to bring her more and more into that. But yeah, I think it has really enhanced, because for people who don't know, the reason why I brought Suzanne in was because I ended up with a heart problem. last year, and I needed heart surgery, and I needed to take time off. I left too late, and she ended up starting the day I came back from surgery. So the timing didn't work, but whatever. But then I ended up having surgery like a year ago, on something else, and I was off like 6 weeks, and she just basically managed everything. And as good as tech is, it can't do that. Certainly for like the 6 weeks I was off, like towards the end of last year, you can't leave your clients without any like email or any communication like that for 6 weeks. You probably could for like 2, but you can't do it for that long. And I think, yeah, like the heart thing was definitely like the trigger for actually what do I want to be doing in this business. And yeah, I might not particularly want a team, but I also don't want to be working all of the time in the business. And I want to feel like if I'm told I need an operation, I don't want my first thought to be, who's going to have my clients? Because yes, they are important, but like that operation and my health should come first. So yeah, I didn't want to. Yeah, I think that really was the trigger of where am I actually taking this business and what do I want to do, and what I wanted to do was not work in the business or not feel as though I had to, and realistically I can only achieve that with people. So yeah, so she was the first one, and yeah, like I do laugh now when I think, yeah, like when I first met you, like no, definitely not going to recruit. No, don't want a team. Don't want people. Happy with my little tech things. I should have done that a long time ago, but it has really helped grow the business. I think in the first 3 months of her working with me before I ended up having to go off for the other operation, I think I grew the turnover by about a third. I think because she had just freed up so much. Not like she's just amazing at what she does. She's a much better bookkeeper than I am, and which is what I wanted. I think you might have mentioned this earlier in the week, Jo, of bringing in people who are better than you at certain things, and that's what I've done. Like, she's amazing, and I really do miss her when she's off. So she's off next week. I was like, no. So yeah, I think it has just really. I can see now where I can take the business, and I think I couldn't really before, because it just gives you so much more scope for different things.
It's really interesting that it took a health issue and having like forced time out to think about that change. Like I can remember the first time I hired anyone was when I was pregnant. I was like, oh, I'm going to have a baby, so I need someone in, and so those kind of things do make you reassess. And maybe if you're watching this and you fortunately haven't dealt with anything like that, it's a good thing. We were talking earlier in our session this morning about thinking about whether you want to exit your business in the future. We think it's really good to plan for all of those eventualities. You never know what's going to happen with your family life, a relative, a friend, your life, whatever, and it's good to be able to have those options. What's happened? So it's amazing that you were able to add a third to your turnover while Suzanne came in and worked for you at the beginning. Why was that? Because you had more time to do client work, or what did you do that generated that extra third of revenue because you had Suzanne?
It gave me the time to actually do business development. So I was able to go off, and so I think around that time I was doing like quite a few workshops that I was running for people. I just had more time, so I was following up on leads more. I was actively going out and talking to people. I was doing a bit more networking, and yeah, so I wasn't doing any more client work. It was just freeing me up to actually go and do something about bringing people in. And I think up to then I'd been very, very reactive, I think. And I get a lot of work through word of mouth, which is amazing, but it's very difficult to control. So yeah, having her in meant that I could actually do something a bit more proactive about bringing new people in.
So something I think that was holding you back about getting a human into the business was I think you didn't want to feel that responsibility. You didn't want someone like sapping time from you, and because you already were so focused on what it was you wanted to achieve and you wanted that freedom. And I think you felt that taking on a staff member didn't feel like freedom to you, but actually what you've managed to do is create that. You spoke about the fact that your ideal client and the clients you work with are very community focused, very personable, and so want that human touch. Can you let us know about how, I want to know boundaries for staff and boundaries for clients, how you've dealt with those and the communication channels you have?
So communication wise, pretty much no one has my mobile number. I think so. I've got around 50 clients, and I think 2 have my number, maybe. And they have that not for business purposes. So we were either in networking groups, or we were kind of friendly or whatever beforehand, and they got the mobile number then. So no one. I know it's a little job in the success lounge with me, but no one can contact me by phone. Do not call me. So yeah, hardly anyone has my number. I don't get very many client emails to my Emma email address, and any I do just get immediately forwarded on. And we have a generic support @ email address that both Suzanne and I can access, and that's actually through a help desk system. Rather than a different email account. So it's through a help desk, so that we both can see all of those emails. We can assign them to different people. So if there's something comes in that I want her to look at, I'll just pop a picture on it, and then that's for her to deal with. But it means that rather than me forwarding her an email or anything, I can still see everything that's going on. And the reason why I did that was because I knew that if I was employing, it was going to be part-time to start with. And what I didn't want so she does Wednesdays, Thursdays. What I didn't want was someone emailing on a Friday and then me not having any idea that it sat in her inbox, and then that's not being picked up until the following Wednesday. So yeah, I thought a help desk would be the best way of that. And yeah, as I say, it means that I think it's also quite good because I had such a good relationship with a lot of my clients, and it was just me for such a long time. I think having her being able to jump into email conversations has made that shift of, I'm only dealing with Emma, a little bit easier. So it's not it's not a hugely formal thing of, I am formally handing you over to Suzanne now, she will be your contact. We're both just jumping into conversations, depending on what we can bring to it. So they're so that help desk thing is the main communication with clients. When I say don't call me, I do have calls with clients, but they are always booked in, and that's kind of a strict boundary for me. I don't want to be interrupted when I'm working or when I'm not. So I'm more than happy for a client to email me in the morning saying, can we have a chat this afternoon? That's fine, but it's always booked in. Because if I'm working on a particular client, I'm focused on that client. I don't want to be interrupted by someone else, because you're then not giving your attention to the original client you were working on, but you're not giving your attention to the person who's just called you either, because you're not working on their stuff. So yeah, they're not getting a good thing. So yeah, all calls are booked in. They're all on Zoom, and yeah, we have that help desk internally. We use something called Zoho Click, which is basically like Slack. So we have a channel per client, and then any bits and pieces that go back and forth between us. Like, can you do this? This has come in, blah blah blah. And I have a pinned thing, a pinned note in each client channel that just gives you a little bit of a rundown about the client. So that can be some personal things. So has just got married, is going traveling, or whatever, or dog's name is whatever. And that's how we communicate with each other about clients. And it was set up like that so that any future members of staff or subcontractors who come in, they're just brought in, they plug themselves into that channel, and then they know everything about that client. yeah, so that's really the communication side of
That-
things.
That's really interesting. I can remember in the olden days of like corporate life, when you had people's business cards, one of my bosses used to write things like likes horses on the back of people's business cards. It's exactly like that, isn't it? It's just those cues. So it really helps with that personable side and you want people to know that helps people to be like accepted as part of your team. It sounds so simple, but you want to be able to have those personal conversations with people.
Yeah.
Cool. What else do you do, Emma? How else do you set boundaries? So people can't call you, they have to book a call in with you. What else do you like? What do you work evenings, weekends? Does that happen?
No, I've probably worked about a handful in the last 7 years, I think, and it's on my terms, and clients probably aren't aware that I'm doing it. So another thing that I have on the emails is if I am emailing, so on the very, very rare occasion, I email in the evening or whatever, I have it set so it'll actually go out the next day. So the client just has no idea when I'm emailing. And something that I started right at the beginning, and it was something that my husband suggested doing because he knew, like, he knows what I'm like, he knew that I was going to end up in all sorts of bother if I continued with this. I never reply straight away. So, and I think that's really easy to do in the early days. So, like, you might only have like 1 or 2 clients, you're not particularly busy, you've got loads of time to, like, your service is top notch with those early clients. But you are also then training them that if they email you, they'll get a reply within 5 minutes. And yes, you can do that at 2 clients. Can you do it at 200? So yeah, so quite early on, like, I don't make people wait like days and days for a reply, but like they also don't need a reply within a few minutes. So yeah, so that's what we do. I only look in my emails 3 times a day now, and I'll only reply in that time. And if someone happens to email like in one of those blocks, I will set it so they get replied to in a later block. So again, just building in that little bit of, so it's a little bit of friction, but expectation management a bit as well, I guess. Yeah, so what's the other thing that is into ID? I'm sure it'll come to me.
It sounds like what you're doing is being very future focused, and you're always thinking about future Emma, future numbers ninjas, future what does the business look like? How am I going to be reacting then? And it's really refreshing rather than what can I do right now? You're not like, oh, I can reply to that right now, I'm going to do that. You're going to hold on. How will this be perceived? How do I want them to feel in the long term? It's amazing to be thinking like that. And with that in mind, what does the future look like? Because what's your next goals? I mean, it sounds like at the moment you've got happy clients, you've got a happy team member, and you've got these really strict boundaries and you're working really well. Is it a case that you're just going to keep, this is what you want and you've reached it? Or is there what's next? What else do you want?
So I want more money, basically. I want to increase my personal income. At some point in the future, my husband and I would like to build a house, or pay someone else to build a house, I guess more accurately. We want to be mortgage free. I don't want to be working in the business all of the time, or at all. Actually, I just don't want to work. And I don't. And yeah, so I would like, or if I work, I will, yeah, again, it needs to be on my terms. So I don't want to feel like I have to work every Tuesday morning. Or I can just like almost swan in, do some business development, do a bit of process creation, and then off I go again. So shorter term goals within the next 6 months, ideally, I'd like to be adding 40k turnover. My actual goal is like a personal income goal and profit, but 40k turnover will get me will get me to that. I've recently taken on 2 clients that are 12k of that, so I've got 28k to go. And as part of that, that's going to need a bigger team. Because I want a lot of that 40k to turn into money in my pocket, that is probably not going to look like more employed staff. It's going to look like subcontractors to start with, partly because we are a Apple business, and MacBooks are expensive. So if I'm bringing in new members of staff, it's not just their salary. They get like a good laptop, they get good monitor, all of the other equipment, and that's not really where I want to go at the moment. I think eventually I'll bring in employed staff, but certainly, the next 6 months, because I have that personal income goal, that's going to look like subcontractors. So I've been spending some time with Zoe's help, looking at how I actually do that and what that looks like. So before we have like that internal messaging system, and we have the help desk, how can is that scalable with subcontractors, or does that really only work when I have employed staff? And how can people plug into these things? And if I can do it, there's a cost for all of this software, isn't there? So like, you bring in new users, the cost goes up. So does that then mean, instead of like a team of 10 subcontractors, I have 4 that I use more? So it's looking like that. But I think that is certainly like shorter term goals, is to increase the turnover, but not by increasing the work I'm doing. The work will be done by other people, some of whom I don't know who they are yet. That goal is to increase the clients, increase the work, increase the average fee per client. So we're now going for like larger clients, and offering like more services and more of like an accounts department type thing to some of those bigger ones, but doing it in such a way that right from the start I am not the one delivering the work, or at least not delivering the bulk of the work.
That was a really good point, and something I hadn't really thought about. When in June I lost 1 full-time employee, I replaced with 3 employees, and that was 3 times the amount of software, because they're all part-time. So do you think Suzanne would ever increase her hours? Is she always going to be 2 days? Because when you've invested that much, because that's a big investment, isn't it, for someone for 2 days a week, that Mac and everything?
Her longer term kind of goal is so she's got youngish children. So her youngest, like 6, 7, I think, and her oldest has just started high school. So like kind of medium to longer term, she's gradually wanting to increase her hours as like the children like grow up and go through different stages of school. I don't know whether she'll ever go full time. I think she quite enjoys, and frankly, why would you? Why would anyone work full time if they didn't have to? I think there's we have like a soft goal, if you like, of gradually increasing hours all the time. But it's unlikely to be full time. But she's very experienced at what she does. So in her last role, she was actually doing accounts, not just bookkeeping. So there is, I have the potential there, as she's as the business grows and starts looking a bit different, other people will be coming in almost under her to take away. She enjoys bookkeeping, so she'll never completely lose that. But people will come in below that to start taking some work off her, to then free her up to do other things within the business. But that was definitely like a big thing of mine when I was bringing her in, of that is such a huge cost for 2 days a week, and is it worth it? And I thought like so hard at the time about whether it was, but I wouldn't be here, I wouldn't be where I am now if I hadn't pulled the trigger and done it. So yeah, it was a bit annoying paying, like forking out all of that money. But I've got such a good result at the end of it.
Yeah, it's one of those like step costs, and it's a push, isn't it? What kind of boundaries do you have with Suzanne in terms of like your availability for her? Is there a certain pattern to the way you work together and when you're available for her, or how does that work?
So on the days that she works, we have a well, I call it a stand-up. We have a short 15-minute like daily meeting at the very beginning of the day that catches up on like personal stuff, but also like about clients, where we are, what I've worked on, what I'm working on, any blockers that I've got, and the same for her. So if she needs me for anything, then that's where we discuss all of that, and we discuss like what her plan is for that day. Any issues that she's having with clients where I might need to step in and do something. I'm also like pretty open about where we are in terms of like bringing new clients in. So while she's not doing that work, it's like she's aware of what's happening around the business, and that we are like trying to grow everything. So before, I roughly work 8 till 4. She prefers 9 till 5. So that's what works for her. So I have the click app on my phone. So if she needs me between 4 and 5, I will get a notification if she needs to contact me in any way. And yeah, similarly, if I've decided like to take a day off or I'm doing something, it's like, yeah, just drop me a message and I'll pick it up whenever. So yeah, so I'm around roughly when she's working, but she knows when I work. So while she could contact me between like that 4 and 5, I also know she wouldn't unless she really needed to. So yeah, I think we have like that awareness of when the other's working and what they're doing, and
That's really
contact me through the day for a quick chat. So
yeah, so she like feels supported, but she doesn't feel like you're on her case. Like she feels trusted, but that you're available, and that's a really nice balance.
Yeah.
And it takes time, and it takes a strong relationship to make that work. Emma, is it okay if I ask you a little bit about the Success Programme, because you've been you've been in our world for a little while. Did you say you joined us in 2020?
Yeah, I was the OG.
Wow. Wow. I love it.
Oh.
Wow. So I suppose things have changed a bit since then. I mean, the program's
just
been
a bit.
Yeah, the community's grown. Like, you would have joined us when the Success Lounge really meant like a couple of calls a week, a couple of calls a month, in fact. And we now have so much included in the Success Lounge. What would you say has changed for you in terms of your mindset, and if you don't mind sharing, like financially in your business since you've worked with us on the program?
Yeah. So financially, where am I? I think turnover has about doubled. I think a little bit doubled. I had a real issue with I was stuck at a certain level for like a few years, and I just incidentally, and I think this was part of it, that it was my salary from my previous job, and that's where I was stuck, and just like mentally I couldn't get over it. So smash through that. So yeah, so the turnover is about doubled, but the profit, I think I'm about 3.5 times. I think a little over 3.5 times. So yeah, that has just completely changed. I think the mindset. So I think I've said this before, but like, I was at a networking meeting ages ago, and the speaker said, if you want to soar like an eagle, don't surround yourself with turkeys. And I always like think of that, because everyone in the Success Lounge is in there because they want to be successful. So whatever like a 6-figure bookkeeper looks to them, which isn't always like actual 6 figures, but there is definitely a mindset. I think even if you don't want 6-figure turnover, I think the mindset is, if that's what you wanted, you knew you could get it. And even if success actually looks different to you. And yeah, I think everyone in the Success Lounge is just, they have that mindset. We're all working towards like different things, but there is that real, it's like that success is completely possible, and there's that acceptance that like success will look different to everyone, and we'll always celebrate everyone's wins, even if that is like very different to what success would be like to me. Other people, they did that months ago or years ago, so it won't look like an achievement to them, but they'll still be celebrating it because everyone just has that mindset. And I think and I said at the beginning that around joining the program was what really helped me make that mental shift of being self-employed, working for yourself, to, although it took me a while, to this could be a business. It's possible for me to be a business owner. Business owners look like me. They want the things I want. It's like I'm from a family like no one has been, like no one's had their own business, no one's been self-employed. It's very much always employed. Like my dad had the same, worked for the same employer in different jobs since he was 17. So like that was very much like normal in my family. And I don't have any friends who own that, or before I started I didn't have any friends who owned their own business either. So it was completely different. And I think when you're going from something like that, where you're surrounded by people who haven't chosen the path you're on, it can feel like so isolating. And then moving into a group where everyone is trying to achieve something, albeit different things, is just so different. And I think it is just so different to a lot of the other groups, in fact every group out there, because everyone is wanting that success. Everyone knows that what they do is valuable, and everyone's trying to do a good job for like their clients, but also for them as well, like not in a selfish way, but they're working towards a better life for them, whatever that looks like. So I think that's like a really key thing about the Success Lounge.
That's really lovely to hear, and I agree. Like it's such a great community, and it's so inspiring to see other people who are ahead of you, other people who have different experience and skills and knowledge. And we were doing an accountability session this morning, and everyone sort of comes on and they're sharing their knowledge about a piece of software. It's so good. What would you say, Emma, for you has been the most valuable part of the program?
I think seeing other people doing things that I didn't even know I wanted to do at the time, and I think having the tools to be able to work towards that. So I've always been someone like I'm very aware of what my values are, and I'm quite values driven, and I know what I will and won't accept from people, and how I want to work and how I don't want to work. But even with that, going through those exercises around that within the program really helped focus me on actually how do I want to build this business, and what do I want to be bringing in, like in terms of like clients and different things, and even in terms of like staff. So what do I want from a member of staff in order to grow? I don't just want like a bum on a seat. I want someone who like cares about the clients, who has an interest in the job, an interest in like growing the business. Obviously, like they're never going to care as much about the business as I do, like, and that I don't expect them to. I don't want them to, but I do want them to care about the quality of their work. And what am I like? What am I going to offer them in return? So I think like I think it's just really how it kind of like guides you through different things, and that the module around like staffing was like really important and really helpful. And I think like going back to like the lounge, just having that, and you've done a lot this week through different sessions in boot camp, that like collaborative work of like the month-end checklist or the finance calls, and that real that collaborative thinking has really opened my eyes as I say to like, I have goals now that I just didn't think I would have. And I think you've said a few times, Jo, of like, oh, you were very clear about like your goals at the beginning. No, I wasn't. Like, if you'd asked me at the time, I didn't think they were goals. It was things like I wanted, but I wouldn't have called them goals at the time. And I don't feel like there's ever been like this strong plan for me for the business. Although I think like there must have been subconsciously. But yeah, I think being able to see what other people have achieved and what other people are doing, and or being able to kind of like collaborate on like documents or processes, has really opened my eyes to what is possible. I think Lucy Sheridan calls them PIPs, doesn't she? Like proof it's possibles, and that's what the group in the program are for me, I think.
Also, I think what we underestimate is a couple of things I want to say is that when you joined the program, you weren't cared about. I think it's module 7, or it was that was the staffing, and like that bit wasn't relevant to you then. But because you get lifetime access, when it becomes relevant, you can go and visit it and get it at that point, which must have been helpful, because when you bought the program initially, that was definitely not on your radar. But something I think we underestimate as valuable is I see Emma giving so much in the Success Lounge. I see Emma offering advice. She gives ideas about technology. She helps people. And when you do that yourself, that actually helps you to grow in confidence. So, and I don't think we realize that it's actually sometimes someone will ask a question, you think, oh my goodness, I actually know the answer and I can help someone. So then you help someone and that boosts your confidence. So I think we underestimate how much helping others can help us to realize what we can do, because at the end of the day, we're all business owners. So we realize, a client, all the questions that have been asked in there are all the questions your ideal clients are mostly thinking. Obviously not always the technical things, but when it comes to marketing and technology and sales and confidence and mindset, everything like that. So I know I've just seen that Kath says you've helped me so much starting to employ Emma, but you've helped so many people. You help us so many times. I see your name, like someone's like, oh, I don't know about this. Emma will know, and that's the beauty in the group. There are people that we know are the go-tos for certain things. And it feels like you're not in business on your own. You've got this, like the Avengers. We always say that, don't we? Bookkeepers assemble. Like someone needs help. Let's get together and do this. And we literally do that in the Success Lounge, don't we? We find the answer together. Yeah. So you're never alone. And I think that's underestimated.
Oh, Emma, thank you so much for coming on to talk to us today. It's really useful for everyone to be thinking about boundaries. Like I think when you start your business, you want to do everything and help everyone, and actually to protect your health and your sanity at times, it's really important to know like what am I happy with, what am I not comfortable with, like not giving your phone number out, and just this almost like gives people permission to make those choices and know it's okay. So thank you for sharing. Emma, can you let us know how people can connect with you and find out more about what you do?
Yeah, so then if not through LinkedIn, you'll never find me because my name is super common. On Instagram will be at the _number_ninja, and I'm always around in the 6FB and the Success Lounge as well.
Thank you. And Emma's one of our ambassadors as well. So Emma's always sort of giving us feedback on what's happening. Thank you so much. Thank you everyone who's been here. And we will see you at 5 o'clock for our last session at Bookkeepers Bootcamp this week. We'll see you there. We're doing a Q&A. So come and join us in the Facebook group, the 6 Figure Bookkeepers Club. Join us if you're not a member already, and we'll see you later on. Thanks everyone. Take care. Bye.
Bye.